Hi, I am DNA. My home is inside your chromosomes, inside your cells. Today my friends will introduce me to you and then introduce my brother RNA. Have a good time watching the wiki.
We are who we are today because of a process known as evolution. This is the change over time of species to better fit their environment. Even the lovable Homer Simpson evolved over time. But what happens in evolution? Evolution is mainly because of the changes or mutations in DNA. This video showed us that all species are connected together throughout history because of their DNA. Hey, what is DNA?
What do you know about DNA?
DNA is what holds the characteristics of a human, whether he's tall or short, whether he has, for example, green eyes, blue eyes, all the characteristics of a human.
Do you think that other living beings have the same structure of our DNA?
Yes, I guess so. Like, for example, banana share with a human like 97% of the DNA characteristics or something. So I guess yes.
Thank you. Hi. What do you know about DNA?
I'm not a biology major, but as far as I know, it's a small factor that it's a component of our body that through which we can know who we belong to from certain lineage or we relate to certain families.
Where do you think we came from?
I think I came from my mother, and my mother came from my grandma, and my grandma came from a monkey.
It's sequence.
Yeah,
Okay.
sequence, yeah.
What do you know about DNA?
DNA, DNA is something in our bodies. It's something in our bodies.
DNA is found in all of our cells. DNA is mainly composed of 4 bases. Base G always mixed with C, base T always mixed with base A. From these 4 bases, we can compose an infinite number of codes, just like the piano keys. From them, we can compose an infinite number of symphonies.
But how do you know what we know now? DNA has always been around and was discovered in 1869 when Joe Mitchell found a substance in the cell's nucleus that he didn't recognize. It wasn't eventually called DNA, and it was widely accepted that it was responsible for our heredity. But it seemed too simple. Then we found out about RNA.
DNA exists for the sole reason to replicate and create more DNA. We have a lot of DNA, and without it, we wouldn't be able to live. It is among the most non-reactive chemically inert molecules in the living world. But how does it replicate?
Our existence is due to the coupling and mating of our ancestors over a very long time. And had things that happened not happened the way they happened, or the precise moment that they happened, you may not exist today. Everyone you know is related to you in some way. We are all part of the same gene. Everyone is related, even Homer and Marge.
Units of information are called genes. At a chemical level, genes are made of deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. All of our cells contain the same set of information. It is only how the information is used that makes them different. For example, cells in the lungs use different bits of the blueprint to do their job than the cells in our stomach.
Having the knowledge that we have now did not come easy or fast. It came after many different breakthroughs from many scientists who made many different discoveries and contributions to the evolution of our knowledge of the genes, DNA and RNA.
In 1904, Morgan was the first scientist to dedicate experimentation on chromosomes. He wanted to support his hypothesis that chromosomes were at the heart of inheritance. He did so by trying to produce mutations on flies. After 6 years of work, he realized that there was a mutation. Some flies had white eyes, instead of red eyes. From this, he was able to track a trait through a successive generations and work out the correlation between particular characteristics and individual chromosomes, thus supporting his hypothesis.
A Canadian scientist who gave science the next big breakthrough in genetics and the study of DNA. At this point in time, many scientists were skeptical of the existence of genes, but it was certain that something associated with the chromosomes was responsible for the cellular replication of every experiment, provided that it was in fact DNA that was responsible for heredity. His experiment was a very complex one that involved him infecting a strand of DNA with an alien strand of DNA. When the infection became permanent, it was obvious that DNA was not just a molecule but something more. The next question to be tackled was, what is the structure of DNA?
Both scientists were unconventional, novice, and extremely lucky to discover what they discovered. At that time, it was widely believed that DNA structure was in a triple helix. In 1953, Watson and Crick believed that if they could determine the structure of DNA, they could understand how it did whatever it was that it did. They proceeded to construct a cardboard model of the DNA structure using the information they already knew about the DNA, which is the base pairings. They it all fit together and constructed a mental model of the structure, presenting to the world the DNA double helix model. However, some credit goes to the undervalued Rosalind Franklin, who produced the first photo of DNA structure using X-ray crystallography. She would later die of ovarian cancer due to her lack of safety precautions when around X-ray radiation. Watson and Crick were later awarded with the Nobel Prize for their discovery.
I think for two reasons. We were thinking about the problem at the right time, and then the two of us, by collaborating, when one of us got on the wrong track, the other one could get us out of it. When if I thought there were three chains at one stage, you were sure there were two. If you thought that the phosphates had to be in the middle, then I would be the devil's advocate and say put them on the outside. And I think this is very important in solving structures of this kind, because the difficulty is that you've got to give several logical steps, one after the other. If you go wrong, one person gets too fond of their own ideas.
Nowadays, we seem that we know everything about our DNA and our genes. But actually, this is far, far, far from the truth, that we only know a small fraction about our DNA and genes function, or what they are capable of.
However, with the never-ending advances in science and breakthrough in genetics, we may very soon get a new breakthrough. Maybe you could be the next Watson, Crick, or Franklin.
All the genetic structures of life on the planet are very similar and differ very, very little. Bill Bryson said it best in his book, A Short History of Nearly Everything. All life is one. That is, and I suspect shall be forever, the most profound true statement there is.